The non-religious need parables too. Take, for example, The Shawshank Redemption. Something of a movie miracle, The Shawshank Redemption made little noise at the box office when it was released in the fall of 1994. While it did manage to snag 7 Oscar nominations the following spring, it won none and never parlayed the award's attention into ticket sales. It wasn't until The Shawshank Redemption eventually came to home video and began airing relentlessly on cable television that a loyal and fervent audience embraced it. So much so that the movie, once left for dead, triumphantly lives on at the time of its 30th anniversary. Voters at imdb.com placed it at the #1 spot on the website's top 250 movies list back in 2008, and it has held that honor ever since. What accounts for this enduring popularity? To be sure, the movie deserves acclaim. Based on a novella by Stephen King, The Shawshank Redemption is a grand yarn solidly told. Set in 1947 Maine, the story centers on Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, a banker sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms at the fortress-like Shawshank State Prison for the murder of his wife and her lover. Suffering much while maintaining his innocence, Andy also exhibits an aloof resilience, one that puzzles his fellow prisoner Red, played by Morgan Freeman, who serves as the story's narrator. Aided immensely by the lighting and camera work of cinematographer Roger Deakins, writer-director Frank Darabont offers a wealth of soul-stirring images. The men in the prison yard frozen still, their beatific faces turned toward a speaker as it bathes them in the Mozart opera that Andy has snuck onto the public address system. The escaping Andy emerging from the prison sewers to be baptized by cleansing rain. Red, after parole, resting against a long rock wall after finding the tin box that Andy has left for him, offering a new beginning. In both its words and pictures, then, The Shawshank Redemption deals in religious ideas. And yet, Shawshank strikes me as a faith-based movie without any faith. From its title to Andy's Christ-like poses, more on that in a bit, the movie tentatively tiptoes toward Christian theology, but ultimately keeps its distance. The only explicit references to religion involve the prison's hypocritical, Bible-quoting warden, played by Bob Gunton. His #1 rule is no blasphemy. Meanwhile, the wanton physical abuse and financial malfeasance he oversees indulge in that very thing. For viewers who have been scarred by the church or are even merely suspicious of it, this character offers reassurance that Shawshank, while driven by the Christian notion of redemption, has little time for the particulars of the faith. All of this allows The Shawshank Redemption to be inspirational and vaguely spiritual. Even the employment of Andy as a Christ figure works in this way. He is innocent, true. He brings hope and healing to his downtrodden community. Instead of loaves and fishes, here it's bottles of Bohemia-style beer. He also endures his unjust punishment without complaint. And Andy ultimately triumphs, even in that shot of his escape, seemingly rising from the grave. But something crucial is missing when it comes to Andy's supposed Christ-likeness. On whose behalf does Andy suffer? Is there any atonement, a crucial element of Christian doctrine, at work here? Exploring this would be getting in the theological weeds, and since The Shawshank Redemption's release, North American culture has been moving in the opposite direction. By the time of a 2021 Pew Research Center survey on religious practice in the United States, self-identified Christians made up 63% of the American population, down from 75% a decade earlier. Around the same time, a 2023 Pew survey identified a group among respondents who were defined as spiritual but not religious. The Shawshank Redemption might as well be the poster movie for such a shift. This is not to denigrate the film. Personally, I tend to find more nourishment of the artistic and religious varieties in movies that are open to interpretation, as opposed to explicitly faith-based productions. The latter can often feel like religious tracts that are being passed among those who already have them memorized, though to be fair, I also recognize that such films can serve a devotional purpose, if not an evangelistic one. To me, The most theologically interesting element of the Shawshank Redemption concerns Andy as an embodiment of Christian hope. For Christians, hope means more than simply holding on for a sunnier day. Rather, it begins by being clear-eyed about the present darkness. It expresses itself in action, and it yearns for something not just personal but eschatological, that the world in its entirety will be restored to its original glory. Hebrews 11:1 connects Christian hope to a more robust understanding of faith itself. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. In the Shawshank Redemption, much of this is reflected in Andy, who, even in his first dark days in prison, before the abuse and assaults begin in earnest, places his hope in the small rock hammer he asks Red to smuggle inside. And so Andy begins decades of persistently chipping away, even in the face of violence at the hands of his enemies and skepticism on the part of his friends. It's Red, after all, who warns Andy that hope is a dangerous thing. Like a mustard seed, however, the tiny pricks of that hammer give way to an Andy-sized hole, allowing him to seek a new life on a pristine beach, one that's likely even richer than the life he had before. Maybe the Shawshank Redemption is pretty faithful after all.